Good morning, everyone. This week, we're going to be talking about where the market's going next. We wanted to kind of mastermind with everybody what their feelings on the market is, where they think it's going, how it's reacting, and what they're going to do to adjust to this ever-changing market. With that being said, naturally, we're coming into a time that typically slows down a little bit for us as realtors. The market tends to slow down in these months because people going back to school and having a lot on their plate. Just wanted to check in with everybody and see what they felt was happening. Do you guys as a whole feel like things are slowing down a little bit? Obviously, there's still multiple offers out there. Who would like to kind of share what they're feeling at this point?
Let's start with Mr. Hubler and tell us what he expects the foreclosure market to be, and with some of the regulations changing, do you think they're going to release some properties? So you're really in tune with what's going on there, Bob.
Yeah, we've been getting some conflicting information. Somebody was just, we were on a call last week. They were heads of one company and they were thinking that it was going to be numbers from like 2012, 2013 inventory. And then I've had some other people who are really in tune and have their hand on the pulse. And they were actually thinking it was going to be like a multiplier of the boom back in 2008 when that bubble burst. They were thinking it's going to be like 1.5 times to 2 times as big because of all the forbearances. Because a lot of people don't realize when they sign a forbearance agreement that if they miss one single payment, they've accelerated all their notices to foreclosure, and they can be out in the street pretty quick. If you know anybody that has a forbearance, they can get out of forbearance if they make up the payments, but they got to keep up on time, because if they're late, they can accelerate the foreclosure process very quickly. But for us actually seeing anything hitting the street, it's going to be next year. I think probably December is usually going to be a big sheriff sale, because I think with all the timing of all the moratoriums coming to a halt, that the foreclosing attorneys are probably busy. And then by the time they get it out to the sheriffs for them to put out notices and whatnot, I think you're going to see probably the earliest would be the December sheriff sales into the first quarter. But by the time the product actually hits the street, it's going to be probably the end of the first quarter into the second quarter of next year, as far as the foreclosures. But as a whole with the market, I was actually shocked that I sold a house over the weekend that was down in Brogue. It was a 18-acre log cabin, and I told the people to list it about $849. They wanted $899, and we had multiple offers, and we sold it for $890, waiving all inspections. So the only contingency they had was mortgage, and they had more than 20% down and had all their financials supported. And then we listed one in Quarryville on Thursday. Again, my numbers were about $380. We listed it for $393, and we sold it for $406 with multiple offers. This house was on a golf course, and people are really sweetening the pot and also going down on inspections and whatnot. But then on the buy side, I had a buyer from Mechanicsburg, and we wrote for $500 on this house that was listed for $499.9, waived all inspections. They were putting down $80,000 down, and we're putting, it was an 80% LTV, and the buyer had a kicker clause up to $530, and we still didn't get it. And so, I mean, there was probably 5 offers, and even the listing agent told the sellers to go with our offer because it was the strongest one, and the sellers had dollar signs. I'm not sure how much more they went over top of our offer, but the other agent was saying how she didn't know any of these agents who also had an offer in, and ours was the cleanest and strongest offer, and that they should go with it. But like I said, the sellers had dollar signs so in their eyes. So I think it's still strong. I think it's not as strong as it probably was back in April and May, but it's still there. It's still, going on. So far as it's slowing up a little bit, maybe a little, but it's still out there because the lack of inventory and the interest rates still being low.
You just gave us an example down in Southern York County and then one in Lancaster County. So it sounds like those areas are still popping, like you said.
Yes.
How about Kara in Franklin County? What's going on there? Are you guys still getting multiple offers in your area?
You know what, I am, Tim, on the listings that I have that are in decent shape. Now, if I throw something out there and the seller determines the price and it's really up there and the property is not in the condition that demands that price or in the location that demands that price, then it's sitting. Once it sits for a little bit, then I'm not getting the offers in on it. So then the seller actually has to come back and do some adjustments either to price and or to the condition of the property, and offer some concessions there. Our appraisals are coming in light. I've talked with several of the appraisers and they're scared in our market. They really are. They're afraid of getting called on the bench down the road is what they're telling me, and justifying the numbers. So they're very cautious. Something that I'm seeing, which is, I've never seen this before, is if there is a hot property and there's no rhyme or reason. I've seen this now twice within the last week. The one I've discussed with you is that I will have a buyer come to me or an agent come to me that wants to buy out another offer. I have that twice now, where there's an offer that's already a ratified agreement of sale, and then someone wants to buy it out, and it'll be a difference of, several $1,000s to buy it out. They want to pay the other agent to walk away from the deal, as well as the buyer to walk away from the deal. And they want to pay that up front.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I know this is happening with you now twice. Our contracts say that the agreements are not assignable without the seller's consent, but it is interesting that's happened to you twice. Is that two different people or is it the same guy?
No, there's another one that has happened now on a farm. And so there we're talking, that's that's $2 million, and somebody wants to come up 100,000 over to buy out another property. So it's very interesting what's going on in this market.
Right. So Stacy, with your inventory, I know you guys are listing a lot of homes. I was talking to an agent yesterday and he had mentioned to me that he saw some properties in that Chambersburg area that were currently on the market for like 15 days. And then all of a sudden they're getting multiple offers. Are you seeing, like in Harrisburg area, in Mechanicsburg, we were getting, we put a property on the market on Thursday and it would pretty much be under contract by Monday. Are you seeing that, or are you seeing that it is taking 2 weeks in your market to start to generate your multiple offers?
I would say it depends on the type of listing that it is. And it also depends on if it was marketed as a coming soon versus if it just hit very quickly. So, but I would say for the most part, at least on my listings, it's taking somewhere between 7 and 15 days in order for to see the multiple offers. But I personally have stopped doing quick turnarounds. So I will put on there that there is a basically an end date, and it usually is always 1 week out.
Okay.
Because in one respect, I feel like we're undermining ourselves by constantly marketing that we got it under contract in 1 day. I think it makes sellers think, oh, well, I can just stick a for sale by owner on there and get it sold and not go with an agent because they don't need it. So by me showing them that I'm able to bring them multiple offers over with great terms, it makes us look better as a whole for a team. The other thing that we just did, I called it our triple threat. We had a buyer who had to sell. I gave the buyer to Sharon. Sharon wrote the offer and got it under contract. I listed the house. We gave 7 days for people to view it. Another buyer came to me. I gave it to Kyra. Kyra wrote the offer, and so we represented on all 3 sides.
Good. So, and if you guys don't mind sharing a little bit about how you're helping the buyers or capturing the buyers by, I think what days of the week are you putting the listings on, and then you're quickly having an open house that sometimes they're not just on Sundays, they're on other days of the week too. So if you could just expand on that, because, it's so hard right now to pick up buyers because these listings have been selling so quickly. If you could just share what you're doing in order to help pick up some buyers.
Sure. So we're usually listing on a Wednesday or a Thursday before the weekend. And we have had success when we are getting ready to list a house. The one success that happened where we captured all 3 was I had Sharon go out and do a live video, and she took a lender with her. And so both the lender and Sharon basically publicized that this house was hitting the market and was happening. And we started getting phone calls from friends of the lender who saw the video. Sharon not only ensured that we got a buyer very quickly on that property from that video, she also ended up capturing an investor who saw her video and liked her personality, had her take them to see another house that's going to be a flip. So she got the flip. She'll get it when it's done. So it's partner up with people who have a larger social media following than you do, and make sure they're tagging you and doing the live as well, because then their following naturally sees yours.
Are you doing the live specifically just on Facebook, or are you doing it on Insta? I don't know if Insta does live, or are you doing it on TikTok?
On that one, I think we just did Facebook on that one.
But we did something on Instagram.
Yeah, but we've done them in the past where we've been on both Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Anything that happens on our Instagram page automatically shows up on our Facebook page.
Okay, good. How about Sherry Anderson? Sherry, what are you seeing with your listings? I know they sell very quickly, and you're pretty much working Dauphin and Cumberland County. What are you seeing with the market?
Yeah, so probably Dauphin County, is our probably 80% Dauphin right now. But I would say for the buyers we're representing, instead of maybe 10 or 12 offers on a $200,000 to $300,000, priced home, we're maybe seeing 5 or 6 offers. So, it's still competition. I just had a buyer this morning say, hey, is the market getting better? Their problem is they have a house to sell before they can buy. And I said, you know what? I said, you're going to have to sell your house, live with family, and then be able to make a non-contingent offer. So that's the hardest thing. We have a couple of people that they want to then is that if they sell their house, they're scared because they don't know where they can go because the inventory is so limited. We still have that unique property that you actually had shown on 14 acres. We did get an offer on that, but the seller rejected it because it was contingent upon those buyers selling their home, even though they were going to allow the right to continue to market. She basically said, well, once the home's under contract, come back. It's more of a sure thing. And then I had a small little property in Lower Paxton just listed at 115.99 that just went pending over the weekend. Now that just had one offer on it, but it was unique. It needed some work. So it's still, there's still competition out there, but I don't think it's quite as the rat race as it was before back in May and June, where, it was a rat race. I hated it. So it's leveling out a little bit, but it's still busy.
Okay, thank you. Brent, if you could explain, you represented a buyer this past weekend. He put an offer on 2 different properties, an investor wanting to buy both, not just putting an offer in on 2. And if you could tell us how many offers were you competing against and how it came about that you and Andrew won the contracts on both. So congratulations first on that. But if you can share with us who all you were in competition with, how many offers, and what you did specifically to get the advantage.
Yes, so fortunately, both of these townhomes were in the exact same HOA development. Couldn't ask for a better buyer. I mean, this is every real estate agent's dream buyer. I mean, he literally is an investor. He is a cash buyer. He knows what he's looking for. He knows this development. He already owns some properties in this development. Long story short, we went in. The first property is being handled by an attorney, so it's an estate. The list price was $180, and he wanted to offer $185 with no contingencies. But the kicker is, I talked to him about there was still some personal property in the building itself. There's couches, there's books, there's kitchen stuff, there's a bed, there's all kinds of stuff. So what we talked about is, look, when an attorney has to deal with an estate, possibly that means they have to deal with, children. From what we knew, maybe the children were from out of state. So we put in our contract that we would accept the property as is with the personal property in there. So they could come in, remove whatever they wanted to remove, and leave everything else. Our reasoning behind that, or our thought process behind that, was as the attorney, if he has to deal with 2 or 3 different children, and he would have to go in and sell the bed and the couch and all of the personal belongings, it's just going to be very difficult. So we just put that little caveat in our offer. We were competing against 5 others, all of which were more money. However, some of them needed mortgage contingencies. Some of them had a home inspection, and we were cut and dry. And to be quite honest, the agent told us the biggest deciding factor was they liked the fact that we would take all that personal property and get rid of it for them, because it would be a lot less hassle for them being the attorney. So that got us that deal. The other deal, we were competing as well. Again, we offered cash. We offered $5,000 above asking price. We were competing with 2 others. And we were the highest and best, even though it was only 5,000 over. So we got both.
Good, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, how about Kong? What are you seeing in like the Hershey market and some of those other areas right now?
The Hershey market has slowed down a little bit. There's been some pretty good price reductions out there. Actually just sold one over the weekend in Hummelstown, and that one was listed in the beginning at $779, and we ended up getting $700 for it. even though they had an appraisal done to do a refi cash out on it at 769. So like yesterday, I visited a house downtown Hershey, one of the best streets, Maple Ave, and in 1 week they dropped it $30,000 because Dave Drobnock said the feedback wasn't good and they weren't getting enough showings on it. So, but one of the things I always am very cautious about is clients are always going to ask you, how's the market? They always want to hear a realtor's opinion as professionals. So whenever a client asks me how the market is, I want to give them an answer that is honest, first off, but gives them hope and motivation to sell, but at the same time, keep their greed and expectations in check. So one of the things I tell them, and I wrote down here what I normally tell a seller, is that it is a seller's market and homes are selling for top dollar when marketed and negotiated correctly. What you don't want to do is create a buyer's market for your property by overpricing the property or presenting the property with zero to bad marketing. So that's something I tell sellers, and it kind of helps me set the expectation that, hey, your $250,000 house, we're not going to list it at 275. We probably should list it at about 225 to 250, let the market ride out, a few days and get you to that 275 number. So, and it seems to work because, I've had sellers that initially wanted X amount and we listed at where I tell them to, and they do get back up to that point.
I would agree that that's probably starting to affect our market where sellers, I don't want to use the word greed, but sellers' expectations were, we can put it at any price and someone's going to pay for it. But yet, when Mr. Hubler explained to us, he put that property at 849 and he was able to drive the price up to 890, that was good. But if he would have listed it at the 895, he might not have gotten any showings on it. The fact that he had it at the 849 created the interest that drove it up to the 890, and I'm sure that that's probably what maybe has happened in Hershey is everybody just went and added $50,000 and, and listed their property. And now all of a sudden they're dropping at 30 because they're not getting the action that they wanted. But the people that have been pricing it still competitively are still driving the price up naturally that way. So,
and it's not just the price too. When you do that, Tim, the terms get better too. All of a sudden, somebody may want to pay your transfer tax, or they may not want to do inspections, stuff like that. Things clean up itself when there's competition.
Right. When we're driving the competition, you're absolutely right that the terms get better for the seller. Yep. Anybody else have any experience that they want to tell us about recently in a specific area that we're kind of getting a feel? Mike, is anything happening in the Philadelphia market right now? Or is it still crazy there that if you had a buyer, it's hard to get a property because people are competing? Coach? There you
Sorry,
go.
I was taking you off mute. Sorry, your question again. Yeah, it's still a crazy market down in the Philadelphia area. Lots of for sale by owners. It's just very competitive. There's a lot more agents there I'm competing with, and I'm just having a difficult time on my end in securing clients.
Right.
It's just so competitive.
Right.
But the most recent success I had was that house in Warrington, like Kong was saying, we listed it at 735, but we ended up getting 766 for it, because he wanted to list it at 775, but we instructed him, you got to come down in the price, lower it, and then have the price bid up. So we ended up 766.
Yeah. So it sounds like pretty much over the entire state right now. at least as far as our office covers, it's still pretty busy. That things might have softened a little bit, maybe where the marketing time has increased a little bit. And that could have been because people actually put the prices a little bit higher, or, things are catching up. So Brooks, anything else you can think of that you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, just kind of to retouch on what you're saying, it sounds like things are still very good. Everyone's still getting multiple offers, just maybe not the quantity that we saw back, in May and June and July, but everything's still great. And from what Bob says, it sounds like we're not going to see a surplus in inventory surge the market with any foreclosures here in the immediate future. Some of that might happen in this coming year. But that, in my opinion, might give us, a chance to kind of market a message to some of the people in your sphere of influence, anybody, talking to them about forbearance and kind of what that's all about. Because like he said, a lot of people didn't fully understand that when they took advantage of those programs. And you could be the helping hand to either A, get them out of it, or B, list their house at a price that you would sell and make up that shortfall. So I think using that to your advantage might help in the coming months.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, if we think that we are going to see a increase in those foreclosures, is there anything that we need to be preparing for 6 months out so that we don't see a decline in our business?
I don't think you're going to see like a decline, but what you're going to see is more inventory coming on. So then with more inventory, that's going to be filling a void. And usually these properties are going to be the lower end of whatever you're seeing in your market, not the upper end. So you're going to have an inventory for probably like first time home buyers. What I would do is make sure that you're with a lender that can finance some of these properties, whether it's a 203K or a conventional rehab loan. So if you have somebody who wants to buy that house, that you have a way to put them in there, that other agents aren't, grasping on how they can put that buyer in there. So I think the foreclosures, when we actually start getting some inventory, is going to fill the void that, we have right now, is lack of inventory. So with more inventory going to come on, it's going to help, probably bring down these multiple offers. But what it's probably going to do is you're not going to see the big escalation clauses and so on and so forth once it starts to come on. But, we don't know if it's going to be a tidal wave or a slow trickle,
So Bobby, what's the number of days that the owner occupant has to buy those properties before the investors can start coming in?
Well, every case is a little bit different. The reason why that they have some of these investor clauses is because of them buying the paper. Because if it was probably like a government-backed property, that they have the obligation to offer it out to owner occupants first before they can with investors. And every one is different. Some clients uses 21 days, some use 7 days, and some of them have 0 days. So every case is different. And every time that when we get one of these properties, I like to ask the question to the asset manager, so we're not surprised when they say, oh, well, we can't respond to an offer for 7 days. It's like, I like to know up front so we can put it in the agent remarks section so the agents don't feel like we're misleading them, or either that or their clients don't think that we're being on the up and up. So we like to get that information up front because they don't always share that with us. Some of them do, some of them don't. But we always like to be prepared so we're not caught short. So we look professional to the public in that. So
thank you. I do have a question for Tom Chalednik. Tom, what are you seeing with the new builds higher end market and the lots that you're representing, are they moving? Are they sitting? Because that's a totally different animal than, you know, the resale residential 300 to 400,000 range.
Yeah. You know, Tim, it's still moving. All of our lots are moving. A lot of buyers want to sit back and think that, you know, dimensional lumber did come down, which, you know, you being a builder, you're aware of that. So costs did come down some, but, you know, everything else has gone up. Windows, siding, roofing, OSB sheathing stuff is still expensive, and factor in the increase of labor cost, you know, to get these guys to work, framers and whatnot. The prices aren't going to drop that much. So people thinking, you know, at least 3 builders who I'm communicating with, they're not seeing, they're not expecting huge drops in prices because everything else is coming up. So it's kind of balancing out. But, you know, with rates being as low as they are, with the interest rates and people locking in construction loans in a low 3% range, you know, I've got people waiting for phase 2 to come, and, you know, they want to reserve stuff that's not even, we don't have a road in yet. But, you know, we're holding off because of the cost. We don't know what the cost of those lots are going to be at this point.
And what's your, in that development, what's your average sale? Is it in the 500 to 700 range, or 600 to 800 range, or?
We're 700, mid sevens, and some of them they're pricing out right now are 1.4 million. Just talking to Jeff Busser, 1.4 million he's pricing out one. So they've creeped up. When we started that development a year ago, we thought 700, 800 max, where 700 is like the low, really 750 is really the low end right now. And they're closer to $1 million. Good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that market's still booming for you.
Yeah, it hasn't slowed down. And, you know, it's every day I get an email or a call from something about the lots. You know, now a lot of people can't afford that price point, but it's hard to build. You know, you're building right now. What are you seeing with your construction costs? The same thing, or?
Yeah, it's difficult to build anything under 500,000. First of all, yeah. I mean, we have a spec going up right now in Mechanicsburg. It's 650,000 for basically 3,200 feet plus 900 feet finished in the basement and a 3-car garage. So
that's a good deal.
Yep. And that's on a $135,000 lot. So, but good. So, well, thank you for that information. How about Sean? How's Michelle and your business going? Are your listings still popping very quickly?
Yes, I think she and Trent sold 4 of them. No, yeah, I think 4 in 4 days.
Okay, good. Did they have multiple offers on them also?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously, Brooks, things are really popping all over, whether it's resale, new builds, all over different areas. Things are still good. It's still a seller's market. And, you know, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add to the call, but it was a good call, very informative from everybody lending their opinion, and I appreciate it. So Brooks, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, it was another great call. If anybody has any topics that they'd like to, you know, have kicked around here in the future, reach out to me, send me a message, and, you know, we'll work that into the schedule so that we can discuss them.
Right. I'm not sure if are we having a call the next 2 weeks with the holiday and back to school and all this other stuff, or?
We'll keep you guys posted about next week, but after the holiday, we have a couple topics lined up to discuss, just kind of working on timing of when we want to do those.
Yeah, because I know Memorial Day that week we won't have a call, but I wasn't sure about proceeding it. So we'll be in touch with everybody, and thank you for getting on the call and sharing information, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.